produced by Mr. Darko Beats.
Welcome back, New York. This is going to be part 2 of our little preseason kickoff mini-series. Games obviously coming on Saturday. You're listening to this on Thursday now, so the mania of the season is in full swing. Obviously, the excitement, I think, at this point is really through the roof, and even now that we're getting back on the mics after a bit of a longer extended offseason than we wanted to, it's becoming a bit more real that like we have competitive soccer being played against a good team in Inter Miami in like 72 hours.
Yeah.
So it is a bit much to take in, but for the second part, what we want to focus on is incoming transfers, outgoing transfers, and kind of the lack thereof of all of that we've seen so far, and get into, like you alluded last episode, to some people that might feel like new signings just because their availability last season was either not there with guys like Malachi or some of the younger guys that we're bringing up now in absences like the left back position.
Right, yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is that there really is no news. Like, we're grasping at straws with, a kid from Argentina who can play the 10 role. Nothing really there. The last time that we saw a rumor with NYCFC was, within the hour or so after that, signed somewhere else.
Right. Wasn't it Bellotti?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bellotti, yeah.
I think the agent just dropped like a city football group name out there.
An extra $2,000.
He needed leverage of some kind.
He needed an extension on his house or something. So, but in terms of incoming, there's really no information out there on, who, what, and where. So we're kind of just dealing with the squad as is. There are, like you said, Malachi Jones, nickname Mally. I didn't know that. Yeah. Nickname Mally. You could see him become a really big part of this team at a position where we're lacking production. And so he does kind of feel like a signing that's not a signing. You also have the draft kids who, for the most part are all looking pretty comfortable, but more likely than not, they're all going to be NYCFC 2 kids. And then you got all of the outgoing, which
are the biggest stories, honestly, of I think the team in general. The first one being James Sands, which we've known about for a while now. But unfortunately, the news just this week of him, I guess, tearing his MCL and breaking his leg is hard to take, I think, as NYCFC fans and as James Sands fans as well. That is a blow. And it's not even, it doesn't even affect our team. It's crazy. It does in a way,
it
right?
Does, yeah,
long term.
Yeah.
But just thinking about the prospects of the first half of our season, that type of thing has no effect on it. But it still kind of hits as if he was with us when it happened.
Well, the biggest thing with it is that, we kind of coped ourselves into a certain mindset when he was gone that all right, yeah, he's gone, but, at least he's going to get to experience Europe again. He's going to be good because he's James Sands, and then he's going to end up getting sold and we'll, make some money off of it, and that'll be cool. Now it's he's hurt, not going to be able to shine the way that he would have. And on top of that, that probably hurts his chances of being purchased by the club because you saw him for 2 games, like that.
He looked good too.
That's
just the shitty part.
Sucks for him, sucks for both clubs involved. I wonder if he's going to be doing his full rehab there, or if he's going to be coming back for his rehab, but
it's hard to know.
And it just sucks.
I know with the loan too, I think it was only a 6 month, so it was set to expire June. If St. Pauli, for whatever reason, decided not to extend it at that point, that would have been essentially an incoming transfer of James Sands in the summer to really tackle the end of the season and tackle some of those competitions like the Open Cup or Leagues Cup. So from a long-term perspective, it is a massive blow, and we're going to have to see what happens. I don't know timeline-wise, but
you're thinking I know Malachi Jones was a little bit different because he didn't have knee ligament damage.
So that was a better scenario.
And he was loosely being floated around as maybe he'll be back for the playoffs. And that was much later than this injury. So technically, I think he'll be back with us in June for sure. I think we can 100% say that.
Yeah.
He'll be back with the team. He'll be in the middle of his rehab, and maybe he's a player by
playoffs.
or like
It's
deep
weird though because
cup
Malachi
run.
didn't end up getting minutes, and he's like still not getting minutes in
Yeah, but
preseason.
Different manager, different position. Whereas, we had Ojeda, we had a bunch of wingers just sitting there waiting. So like rushing Malachi wasn't a huge.
Yeah.
But like James Sands, I mean, looking at our defense, he could be a huge addition to that team going into the playoffs. Like it's hard to look that far away, but genuinely, I mean, we could be relying on Tana at that point.
Yeah.
We have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, Pascal has talked about it. I think they asked him specifically about the hole that James Sands leaves behind, and he alluded to the fact that it's obviously a massive loss if we're losing him to Bundesliga. Like, that says a lot about the player that he is, and kind of replacing that quality is going to be difficult. And he didn't want to speak to a specific player, but I think he listed Hack and he listed Shore as being two guys that have been somewhat impressive in the preseason to him. So it'll be interesting to see who steps up, and then kind of in the same realm of the midfield of our team. For those of you that listen to Blue City, at the time when we were posed with the hypothetical of Santi leaving the team while recording that, it was purely hypothetical at that point, and it really felt kind of 50-50. But obviously now, with Bogart reporting it and Santi doing airport interviews about Botafogo, it essentially seems done, aside from both clubs making their official announcement. And I'll just kind of echo what I said on Blue City, being that I feel like in a way the season is effectively over if we either don't bring somebody in immediately, like as soon as we can, to fill that void, because who knows to what degree Maxi can fill the minutes that Santi gave us last season. We know from a effective perspective that Santi was able to go out there and have 21 goal opportunities, or 21, 23, whatever it was. And Maxi is definitely somebody that can provide that production. But at that consistency, at the advanced age that Maxi is at, that is a big unknown. And I don't know that there's somebody on the team that can be Santi right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I see it both ways. Where it is, it's a huge blow, but at the same time, Santi was given like this superstar tag, and he's our leader and all of this stuff without really being a huge splash player. Like, he contributed a lot in a team that didn't contribute all that much.
Yeah.
And so he was a shining star on kind of like a pile of turd. Like, he was, you know what I mean? Like, he was really good for a team that wasn't very good.
Yeah.
And I just think that if somebody else was in that position getting those minutes all of the time, you could potentially find somebody who will contribute more, who will lift everyone else up around them more, whereas Santi was developing in that aspect, but he wasn't there yet. Like, he wasn't the total package, the total leader yet. And he's always, kind of had a foot out of the club in a way with, wanting to, go on loan or go out and be somewhere else. He never really felt like ours fully. Like, we were kind of forcing him into this superstar role that he wanted somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so in a lot of ways it could be, addition by subtraction, letting somebody else like a Maximo come in and be the understudy of Maxi, having a Pereira who looked really good in the last preseason game come into a more advanced role. All of those things could actually end up being better for the team than having a Santi and not having the $17 million that, someone's willing to give him.
That does have to be said, that although we're losing Santi, it's sort of like a GP situation where we were offered a deal that could not be refused.
100%.
If you can sell, I think it's 17 for Santi and an additional 2 for incentives, like getting a potential 19 mil for Santi is honestly the type of business that we'll talk about in like 20 years from now, about like, remember this deal, like the way that we talk about the GP deal, like those are the things that you can't pass up. But I'm interested to know from your perspective, if you had to put a tier list of players that are on our roster currently to replace Santi's role, how do you think that would go?
Maxi at 1, obviously that's the clear plug and play, and he's gotten the most minutes in preseason at that role. then number 2 has to be Hannes because, he's not been effective whatsoever on the wing at all. And we've enough evidence to show, even with maybe in a new system he'll be better, but he hasn't shown it in preseason. We know that he's not very effective on the wing. Can he plug into a number 10 role, be able to bring some pace and some pressing and all that stuff to that position? I think he could, genuinely. It's almost like his last shot at being a player in this team. And so, he'd be at 2, and then, you can't deny somebody like Maximo from getting a couple of minutes there. Like, the kid is tearing it up everywhere he goes. But 4, you kind of interchange 3 and 4 because a Pereira or a Parks could be serviceable in that role.
Right.
But not quite, obviously, the level that Maxi would be.
Yeah. I feel like Pereira is certainly a part of the conversation. It's unfortunate because I think we would lose if we were to give Pereira the keys to the 10. I think we have to take away the defensive part of his game a bit. That way we're not sacrificing things in the attack with him in that role, and that would potentially take away the star power, the quality that Pereira brings to a team when he's in the lineup. He probably almost fits 1-for-1 in taking over Sand's role, right?
Yeah, well,
him or
you
Hack.
probably have Hackett in Sand's role and then run, Pereira in more of an 8 if you're not going to run a 10 at all.
And you have a Keaton as well that's floating around that midfield that, in a way, this is undeniable. He kind of demands a starting role in this team.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's sort of similar issues that we talked about last year, trying to find a way to fit all these puzzle pieces into the midfield will be an ongoing challenge for Pascal. And hopefully some players step up and they make that decision easier for him. But it'll be interesting to see where people kind of get plugged in. Hack is another guy that we can talk about. And in a way, I think you can feel like he's an incoming transfer. Obviously, it almost felt like he was a summer transfer last year because he came in and he dominated that center back role once we effectively lost Burke to whatever this ongoing injury is that unfortunately seems like it reared its head a little bit during the preseason as well, so that'll be something to keep an eye on. But Hack, whether that is just as a utility player, as it has been in the past, kind of plugging those holes as needed, which is probably something he doesn't want. But if he can get in that midfield role, obviously we have been talking, I think like 4 years now, of the quality that Hack brings to the field when he's on it. And it feels like we're there. Like this is the season where we get to be either exposed as frauds or paraded as geniuses. And that's a fun thing to watch too.
Yeah, no, I think this is the year that he really demands a starting role. And luckily for him, there's a few positions where he could be, plugged right into being the starter for the season. Like he could very much win the left center back role and be the guy for the season if Burke is consistently inconsistent in his availability. Yeah. And so there's also the Sands role that's wide open that is really between him and Pereira. But, if you're looking at the preseason games, as any tell, you're looking at Pereira in a more advanced role anyways. And you're going to want Hack playing back. So I don't want to speak too soon, but I think Hack is going to be a starter of 80% of games this season.
Yeah, that would be...
I think it's time.
That would be the dream, whether you're Hack or whether you're Hack enjoyers, like that would be what you want to happen. That's what would have to happen this season.
And the perfect end to, obviously last season he comes off the field and goes straight to reporters and is like, I'm starting next season, and if that's not here, then it's not here.
Well, I think that is more damning than anything else about what his role will be in the team this year. Because if he was vocal about that publicly, obviously I think there were conversations privately that would have had to happen. And he would have had to be reinforced by whether it was David Lee at the time because Cushing was gone, or Brad Sims or whoever it was, that he will have a significant role this year. So that, that it feels like things are finally coming to life on this Hack bender that we've been on for years, and obviously hoping it pans out for the man and for the club as well, because if so, will be, the team is not going to do well if Hack is not doing well this season as well.
Right.
Just based on the personnel available.
Right. And and that's the thing is it's his turn to go ahead and back up that moxie to be able to go to reporters and say, I'm starting here or elsewhere. Back up the moxie to go to the front office and say, I need to be a starter or I need to be somewhere else. Like, now's the time to let your play do the talking. And he has the perfect setup to do it. And, everyone should be supporting him in doing that. Like, 100% be behind the kid. It's the perfect story to, have your first homegrown player that's pulled to the first team leave, and then another one comes right behind him and replaces him.
Yeah.
Like, that is ideal. That's exactly what you want to happen.
Both from New York, too.
That's exactly what you want to happen, right? So everything's there. The story's laid. You just have to go and get it.
Yeah. And another thing in keeping it in the realm of the defense to talk about is sort of the lack of Thiago that we've seen kind of in general. I think there was like one social video where he was dunking Santi in an ice bath, and like that is the only thing we've seen from Thiago, period, in this preseason. And I don't know whether it's a vet rest situation. I think they did mention at some point he had some kind of calf knock, which is going to be something to keep an eye on. Obviously, you do not want your two starting center backs injured at any point in the season, but to start the season makes it especially complicated. So that's a position that I feel like would need to be addressed. I don't remember if we kept Rio around, Rio Hope Gunn.
I'm not sure.
I thought we...
But we haven't seen him.
Yeah, I thought we let his contract expire in that, weird MLS rules situation where they have to announce things, which leaves us incredibly thin in that center back room. And then really the last item to talk about in this part is Jovan taking off.
There's also McFarland.
McFarland too. Maybe we should run with McFarland. Who should we run with first? McFarland?
I think McFarland, just because it's a bigger, like there's more, there's a bigger lack of depth behind that position. Whereas Jovan was, like, respectfully, maybe disrespectfully, was never anything and probably may never be anything here.
Yeah. Oh, here. Yeah. That's a good thing.
And that's not our wanting. Like, ideally, he comes back, scores 40 goals for us, and is the MVP.
Well, that's what we said on Blue City, too, and we can't help ourselves. We wanted to transition to McFarland, but bringing up Jovan, which is a player that is certainly very controversial, I think, among the fan base. I think you're right, though. We did say on Blue City, like, obviously the ideal scenario is that he goes to OH Leuven or wherever he is, and in his debut, he already came in and scored, honestly, pretty nice goal to win it for them in stoppage time. So if he can get in form, I don't see any negative of him doing well at any point. Whether that's, I don't know how you can see a negative in him doing well, period. Either where he's putting together a rap sheet for us to recoup our investment, or he's putting himself in form to come back in the summer and potentially do something if we need it.
Right.
So
the issue, I think, is like the fans were very much jumping to his defense when he was showing his character, like what his character actually is that we know now. Like, very much quick to defend him, and now they're burying him, I feel like, online. And I just, like, the big jump to me is weird, because you would want to support the kid if he's going somewhere else to develop himself and being honest and open. So I don't know, where are you falling on that?
The big thing is, like, I just feel like it's sunk cost at this point. Like, we already paid the money, and Jovan is now our player. So, like, regardless if we don't like him, his character, or if fans don't like his character, that is kind of not important in any way. Like, at this point, we're trying to either get the money back that we purchased him for, or we're trying to have him contribute in a way that it matches the value of what we paid for him.
Right.
So, like, I think I said on Twitter, what's good for Jovan is good for us. Like, and that is essentially it. Like, that is really where the sentence ends. In
the same way that it should be that for Sands too.
For every player.
Anyone who's gone.
Yeah. So that's where, I feel like that's where we lie with Jovan. I know, a bit controversial of a character within the fan base in general. But like I said, what's good for him is good for us. So at the end of the day, like, we should be backing anybody that is on our payroll, because they can really only either increase the value of our club or decrease it. So here's hoping that he scores like 20 by the time he comes back. I mean, he won't come back if he scores 20. Like he will be sold, or yeah. And then getting to the star boy that we never really got to see much of before he was sold off to the mothership. That is Man City, with Christian McFarlane now essentially just operating in a role within their academy. I don't know to what degree we will ever hear or see from McFarlane again for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Typically, I mean, you have to be the world class of the world class people to get a run in the Man City 11 period. And to do so, I know he's 17 now, but even as an 18, 19, 20-year-old is a tall task. Like, we're talking best players in the world at your position to be able to break into that lineup.
Yeah, he's probably looking at a season-long loan somewhere.
Why not back to us?
Yeah, well, you'd almost think that we wouldn't have sold him then in that case.
Yeah.
But who knows how much control we had over that. If it was like, hey, can we have that kid? Or if it was like, this is what we're paying for this kid.
Yeah.
But I think more importantly for us, I think with him being gone, there's obviously a lack of depth at the left back position. You got O'Toole and O'Toole alone. We've seen good play from Cavallo, but obviously preseason, hard to judge. What's most likely going to happen is they're going to take one of the right backs and invert them for a game if they need to, over like debuting a Cavallo. But it definitely has put us in a pickle. But it was a pickle that had been building for a long time. Like, McFarlane wasn't the realistic backup answer before. And we've been dealing with left back issues since Ronnie left.
Yeah, and he's been sold for a while. Like, wasn't it one of those things similar to the kid in Philly? I can't remember his name. And I know he's like the next American prospect. Like the 16-year-old, like when he turns 18, like he's going to Man City.
Oh, Sullivan maybe?
Sullivan, yeah. Kevin Sullivan.
Something like that.
I thought that was the McFarlane situation too. It was like once he hit an age, like it was like the deal is done. Because we had known about it forever, essentially.
Yeah, we knew for a long time that it was going to be happening.
But it's been like you said, an ongoing issue. Like, we had Turnbull playing many minutes for us that season, Ronnie's last season, or whatever it was, Cushing's first or Ronnie's last.
Yeah,
I know there was.
Well, because we went from having all of the left backs to 0 left backs overnight. So it's been an ongoing struggle. I just don't know what the front office is thinking in that regard. Obviously, they're putting a lot of chips into the O'Toole being healthy department, and obviously we've gone stretches without O'Toole before. There's no rumors of anybody coming in, so it's hard to even point at anyone other than Cavallo and say maybe that's the guy.
Yeah, and that's a good segue into what I think will actually be the last moment, is talking a little bit about some of these super draft kids. Obviously, there's a few guys to talk about, whether it's Prince and Ponsa. We also have Colin McCamey, who we both famously picked as our player to watch on Blue City Radio. Me taking your pick because I knew what it would be. That was a designed move, and it worked to perfection. But there's things to watch here, and we talked many times on this show because of the hit rate that we have on the super draft, which is seemingly way above league average, whether that's a Louis Barraza or Kiri Shelton. Obviously, Jack Harrison, maybe some would say the best super draft pick. I don't know the history of the super draft to speak an extreme degree, but like,
our best for sure. Yeah,
we know that Jackie has to be up there, and he has to be high up there. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about McCamey, and if you think, can he see competitive minutes this year at all in the midfield?
I mean, it depends, right? Because I think his talent and confidence will definitely rise to the top of the NYCFC 2 kids. The problem is he's kind of aiming for a crowded position in our midfield, because you have, Hack, Parks, Pereira, Maxi is going to be playing in the midfield as well. You got all these guys. It's, there's definitely, he's not the second option or third option. There's going to need to be, some rest required, or knock on wood, an injury to a key player for him to really even be in the 18, I think. This is all hypothetical, though. I mean, Saturday could roll around and he's, in the 18, sitting on the bench waiting to go in. But I think of all of the kids that we picked, he's probably the best on the ball, the most confident, the clear best pick in terms of the product we've seen on the field out of everybody.
Yeah. Feels like he's kind of queued up as like the next hat guy for us.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, that's exciting because I feel like we haven't latched on to a player like we have Hack in a few years now. So maybe that'll be kind of the next guy that we keep an eye on. Hopefully.
The short socks get me too. It's so sick.
Yeah. I mean, you also both look a bit similar. He has a bit more hair on the top, I'll say.
Yeah.
But the beard to me,
he's
the vibes are similar.
I don't know. He could be a guy that really brings a spark and, kind of like he's almost like an old style MLS type of player.
Right.
Just, I mean, obviously hard to tell because it's preseason, but like he brings that sort of like old school vibe to the game that I just think that this team needs. And yeah, not to put too much weight on him, but I think of all of them, he's going to be the best of the draft for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably part 2, incoming, outgoing transfers. Appreciate everybody that's been kind of following along on this preseason kickoff, season kickoff week of Post 90. Today's Thursday, so tomorrow you'll hear from us on a season outlook. Whether that's reviewing over-unders remains to be seen, but maybe we can put our own over-under stamps on if we have to. But otherwise, we'll talk to you guys tomorrow and tell you what we think is going to happen for the first half.
With the crystal ball. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys.
Peace.
Peace.
Produced by Mr. Darko Beats.